All right, so let's look at etiquette again. Okay, pretend down the road you're going to have to maybe put a texture on this thing. And when you put a texture on it, it has to have some things happen so that the texture goes across everything. All right. Now, that being said, there's going to be areas that are going to just be almost downright impossible to texture, and that's where static meshes come in anyway. Like here for, say, this doorway. Okay, this doorway goes into another batch, and you can tell, look at the squares. They just don't add up, right? Don't add up. Well, if you look here in the very top view, if I highlight that brush, if I zoom in, you're going to see that it doesn't snap to the grid, and that's why it doesn't line up too well. Well, if I right click on this, I can say transform snap vertices to grid, and all of a sudden it pops them up. Look at all four corners, perfect. Okay, and then I can go ahead and build that again. All right, now let's look at it a little bit further. What we could do is make it come off the wall just a little bit more, or I could leave it the way it is. By leaving it the way it is, I would have to have some kind of doorway over top of it. If I made it stick out just a little bit more, I could probably get away with having it a different material altogether. But these are the things you have to kind of think about. Okay. So, in regards to it, let's first look at this building brush and also getting it to align to the grid. Transform, snap vertices to grid, then rebuild. Better. And lastly, this one. Or is it? Yeah, this one. Right click, transform, snap vertices to grid, and rebuild. All right, that looks a lot better. So to grab this one right here, it's a little hard. There's no doubt about that. We're going to have to grab it in this view. And as I said, do we want to make it technically bigger or leave it alone? Well, I'm going to say technically bigger, but I want it to come out 16 units out. In this case, I'm going to up the grid. And maybe even one more. So it just barely comes out. So right about here and right about here. And then I'll say rebuild. Okay, now I'm going to have to carve my opening just as much as that one. There we go. Rebuild. So now that looks a lot nicer. It's sitting off the mesh. You could tell that I meant to do that, and the doorway blends better. Nice. And it looks good on this side too. All right, so those are the things I'm kind of looking at. I want everything to line up nicely. If I go in here, everything should aesthetically be cool. You won't know exactly what problems you're going to run in until you get into the material phase. But I will tell you right now, what you're looking for is the spacing of these things right here. And you want them to be almost all equal inside this place. Okay, so these squares are equal to the same as these squares. Not too hard in most cases, but look at this. Okay, the staircase is a bear, no doubt about it. So that would have to have a very special material on there to be able to handle something like that. It couldn't have rivets going all the way down because you can obviously tell where the seams are going to be, and it's going to be all weird staggered wise. So it would have to have a uniformed texture material of some nature, like gray gray staircase. That's it. All right. That's what I'm just kind of looking at. So let's go on to the next video.